بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this read-through of Contemplating the Quran, a thematic commentary on the 30 parts of the Holy Quran. Tonight, alhamdulillah, we've reached the 23rd juz of the Quran, covering surahs Yasin, As-Saffat, As-Sad and Az-Zumar, and the theme of this juz is resurrection and faith. The messengers will inevitably be successful. The plots of their enemies will return naught but an evil end, especially when they have witnessed the signs of God manifesting clearly before them, attesting to the principle of the greatest resurrection. The verses lay out for us some of those clear signs. On one hand, the dead earth that God revives, and from which He brings forth all manner of greenery, testifies that He is the reviver of the dead. That's verse 34 of Yasin. On the other, the sun revolving in its set orbit testifies to the omnipotence of the living and the all-sustaining, while the moon begins as a crescent and grows in magnitude to fullness, before its light dwindles and it disappears, ending up a withered old crescent. Verses 38 to 39. Even after all this, people do not cease to question and raise doubts about God's promise of the resurrection. Despite the simplicity of the matter, it will not take but one trumpet blast to seize them in the midst of their disputing and debating and fell them in death. At this time, the consequences of their blindness to the truth and extinguishing of their inner sight will be truly manifest. Ugly indeed is the man who forgets the fact of his own creation and who stubbornly opposes his Creator, disbelieving in the resurrection despite all of the evidence of creation around him, that should efface all doubt. Is not the one who alone created him for the first time capable of reviving him time and again? Surah Saffat proceeds to apprise us of the fact that man sneers at the concept of resurrection, despite it being the organizing principle to which all creation bears testimony. Nonetheless, the human being persists in rushing headlong in willful heedlessness until he meets his end, bereft of succor. The verses then relate to us glimpses of the states of the messengers who came to remind creation of their Creator, to make them see the way to their salvation, those messengers who lived truthful to their mission. We are informed of Noah and Abraham, of Moses and Aaron, Elias and Jonah, before the chapter concludes by re-emphasizing how God assists His worshipful and sincere messengers, and will in turn come to the aid of His final faithful messenger. Praise is for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Surah Sad begins by relating to us the astonishment of the disbelievers at the Prophet ﷺ calling them to one God, in verse 5, as well as their ad hominem rejection of this noble Prophet, for they were unable to accept him being chosen as a messenger from amongst all of them. The verses advise us that this is an ancient, tried and tested approach adopted by those who came before, like the people of Noah, Ad, Thamud, the people of Lut, and Pharaoh, verses 12 to 13. There is also consolation for the heart of the Prophet ﷺ by mention of the account of David, that devoted prophet whose glorification moved the mountains and assembled the birds, in verse 19. The verses also indicate, by way of subtle allusion in the narrative of David's dealing with the two disputants, that the worshipper does not abandon what God has established for him, and that the bringing of justice between people and calling them to good is an affair far-reaching in consequence, and is the way of the messengers themselves. Verse 25. All of this to fortify, make firm, and console the heart of our Prophet ﷺ. Then are related the stories of Solomon and Job, and others of those guided to the presence of the majestic and the all-forgiving, before the chapter concludes with a reminder of how the devil deludes mankind and incites them to deny the omnipotence of their Creator, as well as to belie the messengers. It explains that this Quran is a reminder to all the worlds, and that all realities will be unveiled one day, so that they may know His word and His command. Surah Al-Zumar, in its opening passage, pens a portrait of such a man, in denial of resurrection, in revolt against his Lord, and in rejection of Him. That same Lord, loving, yet utterly independent, who is unhappy with His servants' disbelief. The verses command in unequivocal terms the rejection of idols and complete sincerity to God in worship. A further analogy is coined of God's power to effect the resurrection, the rain that falls from the heavens and gives rise to green foliage that does not tarry long before withering and being scattered by the winds. This is an indication that this life is short of duration and meagre in provision. It is the world to come that is the true life. God sets forth for man these parables and others like them, that he might reflect, awaken from his swoon, and grasp the reality of death, that it is but the beginning of that which follows. Then the people of truth might stand in opposition to the people of falsehood, and realities will be unveiled for all who have eyes to see. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.